Hey guys, this week we're talking about food and relationships. I've got my wife here, the macro queen, and this week we're gonna talk to you about how we use each other as accountability partners to reach our nutrition goals.
Meal prep routine when you're in a relationship. This is actually a really interesting topic. When it comes to Michael and I, we've got two completely different styles. I actually enjoy the experience of not knowing what I'm going to eat, standing in front of the fridge and just, thinking about it. Like, do I want to have this with that? Maybe I'll have a little bit of extra chicken and playing that, what people call macro Tetris. I actually really like that experience just because I'm often not in the mood for just anything at lunchtime. Whereas Michael, you can probably talk about your experience. His experience is pretty much completely the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. I like to make as few decisions in the kitchen as possible. So I like some pre-prepared foods like trifecta meals or like a really big crock pot meal that I can just eat over and over and over, and I don't have to decide what I'm gonna cook.
So we definitely do a happy medium in this family. We have trifecta meals and we use that we use the a la carte menu, so we can get some meats and we can mix them with whatever we want, and that's already cooked. Cooking your protein ahead of time is really just like a huge help because protein generally takes the longest to cook. And then we also always have something in the fridge, like a huge salad prepped ahead of time. And when it comes to prepping in a relationship, one thing that you guys will love as a hack, and I know we have a tutorial video of this, we can probably put it in the caption of this video, for how to send each other through a message your meals from MyFitnessPal. So if I make a meal that's prepped for the both of us, I'll just send it over to him in a text. He can save it.
Changer.
He can save it in his MyFitnessPal and use it later. So that has just made knowing what's in the fridge and knowing what we can put into our nutrition a lot easier. Cooking for two people that have different macros can be really hard, but I think we have some really amazing strategies to make this a lot simpler. So we do have trifecta pre-prepared meals, the a la carte menu for our lunches. So we both just take as much meat as we want, as much sweet potatoes as we want, and we really can easily do it that ways. But we also do really enjoy having meals together and eating the same things. So in those situations, a really great hack that was actually a huge game changer for me years into tracking my macros, nobody taught me this, was to do the MyFitnessPal recipe builder. We'll also put this in the caption of the video. You basically can track the entire recipe in bulk, so that when you do weigh out your portion, you can change the serving size to just how much your portion weighs, and then know just the macros for your particular portion of that whole recipe. So he can take 3 times as much as me, I can take exactly what I need, and it makes it a lot easier for us to eat the same thing, but track it completely separately.
Learning that was one of the most enlightening things about tracking macros in general, and I love it. I highly recommend it. A couple other things that we use. One is we found a silicone skillet divider off of Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's a little silicone thing that you put in a skillet, and you can cook 2 different things in the skillet at the same time. So whether it be egg whites or some kind of rice dish, you can cook completely different macros in the same pan. Really simple. We will link that in the caption as well.
It helps with cleanup too, so you're only using one pan versus needing to use like so many different pans to satisfy both of our needs.
Right. Another one is that you can just cook meals with single ingredients where each ingredient can be separated. So a great one is something like fajitas. You have your tortillas, your meat, your rice, your beans, your cheese, and both of you or each of you can get exactly the macros that you need, or anything like something like chicken, sweet potatoes, and green beans, where each of you can take the exact amount that you need.
By far, eating out at restaurants is the hardest thing to do when you're trying to stay on top of your nutrition. Temptation is at its definite highest. If you haven't made decisions ahead of time, just looking at the menu, it's super easy to just be wanting to go for that really convenient, really calorie dense option, watching the meals pass by, having the bread on the table. I mean, it's just really difficult to go to a restaurant and be on top of your nutrition. Some things that we do, or I guess I've been more comfortable with tracking food than Michael's been.
Totally.
So
She's taught me.
some habits I've incorporated. One specific example is we went to go eat poke the other night. So what we did is we sat in the car. We both put into our MyFitnessPal what we were going to eat before we walked into the restaurant, so that we knew exactly what we were going to be eating and had that already planned out, so I knew what I was going to order. The worst thing is to be standing in line at the poke place, like looking at your MyFitnessPal while the person's waiting for you to make an order. You're staring at your phone and they're just like, what's going on? So we just sat in the car for a couple minutes, had that done, made it super simple, didn't have to think about it until we had the rest of our meal. We also just, I think, have conversations before we go out. Like, we talk about what our plan is, or if might sound a little bit silly. I don't know if it feels silly to you, but before we go out, like, hey, I actually want to be like with my program tonight. Don't be like enabling me to eat really unhealthy or to take things super overboard. And just having that conversation beforehand kind of puts it out in the air and holds you a little bit more accountable, so that it would be weird if he just like started pounding a burger and french fries when we just had the conversation about how he didn't want to do that.
She'll nudge me and say, hey, you said you were going to order this. And if I was about to order a burger and I said I wanted a salad, then I'll be like, oh, okay, you're right. Inside, I'm really thanking her for doing that.
Right.
On top of what Adee said about our little conversation before the meal, if I know that she doesn't want to have any drinks during the meal and someone offers them to her and tries to push it on her, I can help support her and say, hey, she's just not drinking tonight. And she does the same for me. If someone brings out chips and she knows I don't want chips, she can just move them away from me.
Yeah. And sometimes we do little nudges like, oh, you didn't want any drinks, or oh, you said you didn't want any chips tonight. Like, just like a small little thing. Again, with the previous episode, we talked about not getting defensive when the other person's trying to help you out. So if you didn't see that episode, check it out. Last week, we talked about how to give each other little nudges of accountability without hurting each other's feelings.
Nudges.
Those are all of the best strategies for how we manage food in our relationship for people with completely different goals and eating completely different amounts of food. So I hope that that was really helpful for you. Next week, tune in again. Michael's going to be back and we're going to be talking about balance in our relationship.